what we understand the content there in the last session. Right, sir. In JDBC architecture, what we completed so far, if you observe the points there, in JDBC, if you want to prepare any application, we need to follow some steps. What are the various steps here we have to follow there? First one is load and register the driver. Second one is establish the connection between Java application and database. Third one is create either statement or prepared statement or callable statement. And last one is what there, write and execute SQL queries. And lastly, like what there, close the resources. Up to now we completed load and register the driver, establish the connection between Java application and database. And the third one is what there, create either statement or prepare statement or callable statement. The points we understood. Yesterday I given the information about what is the difference between statement, prepared statement and a callable statement. One example I given there in the last session. Right. If you observe the difference between statement, prepared statement and callable statement there, when we want to execute all the SQL queries independently, there we have to use what statement. If we want to execute the same SQL query in the next sequence, where to improve the performance of the JDBC applications, there we have to go for what their prepared statement. If you want to execute stored procedures and functions which are available at database from Java application, there we have to use what? Callable statement. Then in the basic JDBC applications, we have to use statement only, but to create statement object, we have to use public statement, create statement method for connection that we have to use there. Example also we have given there. Statement st is equal to content create statement method. Automatically, we are able to get what object there? Statement object. Then immediately we have a question. What is that question there? In a JDBC, statement is an interface. Not possible to create objects, but how it is possible for create statement method to create object for statement interface. Alright, sir. If you observe this point, answer is very clear. Understand this now. Answer is very clear. Try to observe this clearly. JDBC is an abstraction provided by Sun Microsystems and its implementation class are provided by all the database vendors. As part of that, Java.SQL.statement is an interface provided by Sun Microsystems as part of JDBC abstraction, and its implementation class are provided by all the database vendors as part of the JDBC abstraction implementation. Alright, in the JDBC applications, create statement method will not create object for the statement interface. It will create an object for the implementation class of the statement interface, and that implementation class object reference value is written from what there? Create statement method. That is the topic already we understood. Then after that, after completion of this, the next one is like what there? Write and execute SQL queries. In JDBC applications, to write and execute SQL queries, we have to use the following methods. What are the various methods here we have used there? Execute query method, execute update method, then what next one? No, execute method. Everybody understand this? Please close the door. Just wait. One more person will come. Okay, execute query, execute update, and execute method. The other three methods are existed. That's okay, fine. Now understand this. Here we have an important interview question. What is this question here? What is the difference between execute query method, execute update method, then what next one here? Execute method. Okay, execute query, execute update, and execute method. They are the three methods which are available here. All of you understand this? Observe carefully. Now, first of all, tell me, before this question, I want to ask one question to you. Now, try to answer for it. I think you're all aware about Oracle database, at least one database, not exactly Oracle database, some database. You're all aware about this database, no, right? I want to give some, I want to ask some questions to you, now try to answer for it. Tell me, how many types of SQL queries are available? How many types of SQL queries are available? Majorly, two types of SQL queries here we can understand. What are the two types here now? DDL SQL queries. Second one is DML SQL queries. Am I right? Two types of SQL queries here we can understand, DDL and DML. Am I right or not? Under this DDL, what queries are available there? Create a table, alter a table, and what next one here now? And what next one here? And a drop table. But DML SQL queries are what there? Just first of all, I'm talking about your awareness. What do you know? The point I'm talking with, you know. What about this DML SQL queries now? Insert, update, and delete. Am I right or not? Okay. But actually, I don't require this comparison. In my entire JDBC, I don't require this type of classification. This is in general classification in Oracle that I know. But what I require the classification here, I don't require this type of classification. So for your awareness purpose, I've written this, but I don't require that actually. But what I required here, first one is selection group. Selection group. And the second one is what there? Non-selection group. Selection group and non-selection group. That I required. This comparison I required. As per my JDBs, I required this type of division. Under this selection group SQL queries, only select SQL query. Under this non-selection group, what SQL queries are available? We can understand create. Next one is Walter, alter. Next one is what there? Drop, insert, update. Then what next one here? Delete. These many things are existed here. So under this selection group, only select SQL query. Under non-selection groups, all the remaining SQL queries are available. I need this comparison. Is all of you getting my point or not? Okay. Then after that, after understanding this particular point, now come to the point here. In JDBC applications, all of you listen carefully. In JDBC application, execute query method. What is this method? No? Execute query method can be used to execute only selection group SQL queries. Like select SQL query. Selection group SQL queries like what there? Select SQL query in order to fetch the data from database. For what purpose we are executing select SQL query? In general, for what purpose we are using select SQL query? For fetching the data from database or not? For the sake of fetching the data from database or not? Right, to fetch the data from database only, we are using what SQL query? No, select SQL query. Everybody understand these points clearly. What is the purpose of the select SQL query? For fetching the data from database. To execute this select SQL query, we have to use what method here now? Execute query method. So one point is very much clear. What point is very much clear there? Now tell me, what point is very much clear here? To execute select SQL query or to fetch data from database table, we have to use what there? Execute query method. Then what is the prototype of this execute query method here? Public result set. What is the written type here? No, result set. Then after that, execute query of string query select SQL query only, we have to write throws SQL exception. Understand clearly? Public result set execute query. Then after that, what we have to write there? String query throws SQL exception. This is what we are having there. Okay, fine. Example I am telling to you, now try to understand it. Result set RS is equal to ST dot execute query of select star from EMP1. This is what we are having. To write and execute SQL queries, how many methods are available? 3 methods are available. What are the 3 methods now? Execute query, execute update, and execute method. What is the purpose of execute query? To execute select SQL query in order to fetch the data from database table. What is the method prototype? The complete method prototype is what there? Public result set execute query of string query throws SQL exception. Then example I have given. What is that example here? Result set RS is equal to st dot execute query of select star from EMP1. Sir, all of you are getting clarity or not? Alright. Now what happened internally? When I execute the select SQL query, then what happened internally? Now let me check this. Already we prepared some of the diagram here. Now try to understand it clearly. Now here I want to write all the 3 methods here. One is execute query method, 4th step anyway. Second one is execute update method. Third one is execute method. Actually, all these things are come under like what their 4th step. Write and execute SQL queries. Now let me write our content here. All of you observe carefully. Result set RS is equal to st dot execute query of select star from EMP1. This instruction here we have written. We have written this instruction inside the Java application only, JDBC program only. This is the code inside the JDBC program. Right, all of you observe carefully. When JVM execute this particular instruction, JVM will take the provided SQL query. That is what their select star from EMP1. Then immediately JVM will send that SQL query to whom their JDBC driver. JVM will send that SQL query to whom their JDBC driver. Now what JDBC driver will do there? JDBC driver will send that SQL query to whom there? To the connection. JDBC driver will send that select SQL query to whom their connection. Connection will carry that select SQL query to whom there? To the database engine. Connection will carry that SQL query to whom their? Database engine. Okay. Then what database engine is able to do now? Now database engine is able to follow 4 operations. We know already that 4 operations there. What are the 4 operations now? Query tokenization, query parsing, query optimization, and query execution. Query tokenization, query parsing, query optimization, and query execution. Then by performing all these things, it able to fetch the data from database table. Database engine is able to fetch the data from database table. Already table is available where inside the table some data is existed. Assume in that data is available there in the database table. Then database engine will fetch the data from database table. Database engine will fetch the data from database table. When it fetch the data from database table, what the data will be, what database engine will do there? Database engine will send that data back to what their connection. Database engine will fetch the data back to like what their connection. Connection will carry the data back to whom their? JDBC driver. The data will be sent back to the JDBC driver. Now JDBC driver will send that to whom there the Java application. Database engine will send the Java application. Means that at a Java application, the total data will be stored in the form of an object. Whatever the data which is retrieved from database table, the total data will be sent back to the Java application. At a Java application, the total data will be stored in the form of an object. That object is called as what there? Result set object. Result set of results from database. Get my point or not? Now here we are getting what object here? No, result set object here we are getting. Observe carefully, all of you, what exactly the point I am telling you. First of all, when we execute that result set rs is equal to st.execute query, select a star from EMP1. JVM will take the provided SQL query. JVM will send that provided SQL query to JDBC driver. JDBC driver will send that SQL query to connection. Connection will carry that SQL query to database engine. Database engine will execute that SQL query by following query tokenization, query parsing, query optimization, and query execution. By this, database engine is able to fetch the data from database table. That fetched data will be given back to the connection. Connection will carry that fetched data to what there? JDBC driver. JDBC driver will send that fetched data to the Java application. At Java application, that fetched data will be stored in the form of an object. That object is called as what there? A result set object. In the result set object, that fetched data is available. Result set object is available at Java program. In the sense, we can read the data from result set object by using some mechanism. That mechanism I will discuss with you later on. How to read data from result set object, I will discuss with you later on. No need to think much about it. Yes, sir. All of you get my point or not? Alright, sir. Now this is the way of executing what there? Execute query method. Alright, sir. Whatever the result set object is created at Java program, that result set object is written by execute query method that we are getting in the form of RS variable. Get my point or not? Whatever the result set object is created Java program, that result set object reference value is written by execute query method. That reference value will be stored in RS reference variable. That's it. Now this is the internal story of what there? Execute query method. Alright, sir. Now let me have some document here about this particular point. Some few points here I want to add there. Now try to understand it clearly. When we execute the above instruction, JVM will perform the following actions. What are the various points which are performed by JVM there? First of all, JVM will take the provided SQL query from execute query method. Okay, JVM will send that select SQL query to database engine. Directly I am writing there to database engine through JDBC driver and connection. Directly I am telling that point here. Understand it now. In the diagram I shown each and every step clearly. JDBC driver to connection to database like this. But in the document I am writing directly. So JVM will send that select SQL query to database engine through JDBC driver and connection. Alright, at a database engine will execute that select SQL query by following query tokenization, query parsing, query optimization, and query execution. Then what next one here? By executing the select SQL query, database engine will fetch the data from database. Database engine will send data to Java application through the same connection and JDBC driver. Observe carefully. Database engine will send data to Java application through the same connection and JDBC driver. Then what is the next point here? Now tell me. What is the next point here? Now tell me. Next point is at Java application, the fetched data will be stored. The fetched data will be stored in the form of an object called result set object. In the form of an object called as what there? Result set object. Not completed. Creating result set object is okay, but not completed. One more point is remaining. What is that point here? No. Right. At Java application, execute query method will return the generated what the result set object reference value. Observe carefully, guys. Then what is the point I'm telling there? Alright, sir. At Java application, the execute query method will return the generated result set object reference value. That's it now. This is the point here we have to understand clearly. Has I got my point or not? Right, so now this is what exactly the meaning of like what there execute query method. The total internal flow here we are discussing there clearly now. This is completed. Finally, only one point. Execute query method is to execute select SQL queries in order to fetch the data from database table. Got it or not? Internal story also here we understood there. Please remember this. Don't stop your answer with only creating result set object. That one more point. Next point also here we have to say. Why? Because on the basis of this point, I will have one example and next few classes now. Execute query method will return the generated reference value. Generated result set object reference value. It's mandatory. To specify this point is mandatory. On the basis of this also we have a point in the future. Remember this. That's okay. This is completed. Next one is another thing is like what there execute update method. Listen carefully now. As I'm asking one more question to you now, tell me how many types of SQL queries are available? 2 types. Not on the base of DML or DDL. Leave it. I require the classification on the base of what there select and non-select. Select SQL queries, non-select SQL queries. Under select SQL queries, only one SQL query, that is select. Under non-select SQL queries, no, 6 or 7 are available. What are the 6 or 7? No. First one is what there create a table, alter table, drop table, insert, update, delete. 6 number of SQL queries are available here. Good. Now, in JDBC applications, execute update method can be used to execute non-select SQL queries like create, alter, drop, insert, update, delete in order to perform manipulations in a database table. Observe carefully. Select SQL queries for the sake of what they're fetching the data, not for manipulating the data. Am I right or not? Select SQL queries for what purpose there? No? Getting the data, not for manipulating the data. But non-select SQL queries can be used to manipulate the data, doing some operation with the data, not fetching the data, performing some operations with the data. Maybe creating table, alter table, drop table, insert record, update record, or maybe delete the records. All these are related to what they are somewhat manipulations only. Some data manipulations only we are performing here. But select SQL queries for what purpose they are fetching the data. Right, sir. For executing these SQL queries, no, we have to use execute update method. Let's see this, that method prototype here I want to write. Public int execute update string query throws SQL exception. Example here I'm telling to you. Public int execute update string query throws SQL exception. All of you observe carefully. Example I'm telling to you, int row count is equal to s3 dot execute update. Say for example, assume it. I have a table in my database now. EMP1 table is already existed in my database. Assume it. EMP1 table is existed in my database. For example, execute update where update EMP1 set ESAL is equal to ESAL plus 500 where ESAL less than 10,000. There is an SQL query here we have written. I want to give some 10,000. I want to give 500 as a bonus for all the employees. Those are having their salaries less than 10,000. Right, sir. Int row count is equal to execute update of update EMP1 set ESAL is equal to ESAL plus 500 where ESAL less than 10,000. ESAL less than what there? 10,000. This is the point, sir. Then what happened? When we execute this, then what is going to be happen here now? All of you observe carefully. Let me write the same in a section here. And the row count is equal to s3 dot execute update of update EMP1 set ESAL is equal to ESAL plus 500 where ESAL less than 10,000. This is a query here we have written. When JVM execute this particular instruction, JVM will take the provided SQL query. Then after that, JVM will send the provided SQL query to JDBC driver.
एक्कासी भोल्युम कम भयो नि
Driver will send that
ठेकाउनुको कल आएको थियो
update SQL query to connection.
भोल्युम त खस्की गयो नि
Connection will carry that provided SQL query to
मैले अघि फोन गरेको थिएँ त्यही भएर
database engine. Now, database engine will perform the required updations in database table. It able to perform manipulations in the database table. Then, whenever it is performing manipulations in the database table, if the query is insert SQL query, one record is manipulated. If the query is update SQL query, for example, 10 records are updated. If the query is delete SQL query, for example, 10 records are deleted. So it will identify how many number of records are affected with our SQL query. How many number of records are affected with our SQL query. It will identify that. Then after that, it able to return, it able to identify that number of records which are affected. It able to identify the number of records which are affected. The number of records which are affected is called as row count value. The number of records which are affected with our SQL query is called as what there? Row count value. Now, row count value is identified in the database table. That row count value will be given to the connection. Database engine will fetch the row count value. That row count value will be given to the connection. When row count value is given to the connection, connection will send that row count value to the JDBC driver. Row count value will be given to the JDBC
अनि मैले अर्को एउटा के शब्द भनेको थिएँ
now JDBC driver
छुबाटै
is
आउने
able to send that row count value to what application there now? To the Java application.
एउटा छुक खागी हैन छुक खागी भनेको
From database.
अनुमान लगाउनु गेस
What
गर्नु
there row count value.
एउटा फेरि यहाँ छुछन आगी आयो कि
Maybe 10 or
के हो
20
छुछन आगी
or
भने
maybe 5 or 1, whatever it may be. How many number of records are affected
आगी हैन
with our
रिकमेन्ड
non-select
गर्नु
SQL query? That number,
अनि
that row count
सुन्छ
value we are getting
सुन्छ मार आगी भनेको
Java application. Whatever the row count
त्यसपछि के गर्ने यो पछि के गर्ने
written by
है
execute update method.
खागी
That's why I've taken the written value of this execute update method is what there into row count. Row count is what
छु
there.
छन् हागी
What is
भनेको
the
रिकमेन्ड
value
गर्नु
we are getting from database engine? That is nothing but number of records which are affected in the database. No, that value is called as what there row count value. That row count value is written by what method? Execute update method. Yes, all of you are getting clarity on this. So finally here we are getting what value here? No, row count value here we are getting. That row count value will be stored in what there? Row count variable. Tell me guys, up to now, two methods are completed. One is what there? Execute query. Another one is what there? Execute update. What is the purpose of execute query method? To execute, select SQL query in order to fetch the data from database table. What is the purpose of execute update method? What is the purpose of execute update method?
त्यो पूर्णिमाको दिनको बारेमा भन्नु त मलाई
SQL query in order to perform the database operations like create, alter, drop, insert, update, delete. Right? Then in order to perform these many database manipulations, for the sake of that we are using what there? Non-select SQL queries. To execute this non-select SQL queries we are using what there? Execute update. Finally row count value is coming to the Java application. That row count value is taken by whom there? Execute update method. That value will return that row count value. Right, sir. Now let's see.
ए भन्नु न पुरै भन्नु अनि
Some steps here I want to try to understand.
अरु के गरिन्छ त्यसमा
Right, sir.
हेरेर त मैले पनि भनिदिन्छु नि यति गरेर पढिदिन्छु
Same as that these steps are not.
अनि टक्क चन्द्रमा हेरेर के फिल्टा गर्छन् कि के गर्छन् हैन
Data, but we have to give the modifications. Yes, sir. All of you ready to give modifications? At least in this way also we can remember the content here. Try to identify. Try to put your mind here where we have to do these manipulations now. Right, sir. Now here including this one. Right, sir. Now this data here I want to copy and paste, but we have to check the modifications, guys. Of course, I need to change the numbers here.
केमजोसा
1 minute. Okay, no problem. Just let me complete this one time. Right, sir.
हानकुक इन भनेको कोरियन
Let me check it. If any changes are available, I'll do that.
हानकुक भनेको
Alright, sir. Now tell me, what is the first step?
हानकुक भनेको
JVM will take
हानकुक
provided
भनेको
SQL query from what method? No. Come on, everybody has to give response there. Then only you can understand it now.
हानकुक
Alright, sir. Now
केमजो
I want to specify
सा
clearly.
भन्नु
JVM
पर्यो
will
हैन
take the
केमजोसा
provided non-select SQL
So,
query from
real?
execute update method. Nice. JVM will send that
माल विशेष दिन
non-select SQL query
सुछन हागी भनेको
database engine through JDBC driver and connection at a database.
अनि छुछु गागी भनेको
Will execute that
छुछु गागी भनेको चाहिँ
non-select SQL query
भन्नु छिटो
by following query tokenization,
छिटो
query parsing, query optimization.
छुछु गागी के छुछु
By
गागी
executing what there? Non-select SQL query, database engine will perform
उ गर्ने के सो के अरे अनुमान लगाउने
some manipulations on the number of records.
थोलजान्सी भनेको थोलजान्सी भनेको
Executing the non-select SQL query, database engine will do some manipulations on the
थोलजान्सी
number of records in the database.
भविष्यमा के उ गर्छ अहिले हैन
That's enough. In the database table. Database engine will send data. Okay, fine. Now here what point here we have to identify there? Database engine will identify the number of records which are affected affected with the provided non-select SQL query, non-select SQL query, and database engine.
सुखादा भनेको
Database engine will send
सुकादा भनेको
त्यो त नसकेको यी भन्दा सुरुमा एक नम्बर आवा
the generated will send the generated
खाप्तो भयो
row count value to Java application through the same JDBC, through the same connection and JDBC driver. Database engine will identify the number of records
हान्थे भनेको
which are affected with the provided non-select SQL query. Here I want to say like what their row count. With the provided non-select SQL
इन ह्याङ भनेको
database engine will send the generated row count value to Java application through the same connection and JDBC driver. Got clarity up to this point now? Then what next one here? What change is required here? In the Java application, the row count value, in the Java application, the row count value will be stored in the form of an integer value. Will be stored in the form of an integer value. That's okay. In Java application, the execute update method will return the generated row count value. Generated what there? Row count value. That's it.
रंग रहेछ
Clear or not? Now let us
त्यो ल्यापटप कति गरे जिम्मे बिहान है
understand this. What is the point I'm telling to you? JVM will take the provided non-select SQL query from execute update method. JVM will send the non-select SQL query to database engine through JDBC driver and connection. At a database engine will execute the
गरम न यहाँ यो शब्दै गएको छैन त्यो गरेर के फाइदा हो
query optimization and query execution. By executing the non-select SQL query, database engine will do some manipulations on the number of records in the database table. Database engine will identify the number of records which are affected, that is row count, with the provided SQL query, and database engine will send the generated row count value to Java application through the same connection and JDBC driver. In Java applications, the row count value will be stored in the form of what there, an integer value. In Java application, the execute update method will return the generated row count value. That's it. All the points are clear or not? So two methods here we completed. Right, sir. Now observe carefully. What is the next one, sir? Three methods are available to write and execute SQL queries in JDBC. What are the three
Lai
methods?
aba.
Execute query,
थुक बेल हान नाल भनेको
execute method. Execute query method is
Singing.
for the sake of executing select SQL
Fegil.
query to fetch the data from database table. Execute update
Fegil.
method is for
Thog,
the sake
thol.
of executing non-select SQL queries to perform the
Chitturi.
database operations like create, alter, drop,
Abainal.
insert, delete, update. Okay, all the
Susunenal.
database operations are completed with
गुरुनाल
query and execute update.
अरिनिनाल
All the things are completed with
खेरन खिनेम इल
execute query and execute update. But what is the purpose of this execute method? Still, what is the need of this execute method? Alright, sir. If you have to this point here, I'm giving clarity there. Now try to
अनि
understand it here. In
Handcuff.
JDBC applications, execute method
छिल्सुन
can be used to execute both the types of SQL queries. Guys, observe carefully. One question here I'm telling to you.
बेल
In JDBC applications, the execute method can be used to
बेल
execute
हल्लाल
both the types of SQL queries.
सेङ इल भनेको
At the time of preparing my JDBC program,
फेगिल
if I know the type of SQL query, that is
फेक
select
सुगिल
SQL
पनि
query,
भन्दो रहेछ
I
है
can
मैले
use
त्यसमा
directly execute query method.
केकमा लेखाएको छ
At the time of preparing JDBC application, if I know my SQL query is a non-select SQL query, like alter or maybe create or maybe delete or maybe update or maybe insert, whatever it may be, I can use directly execute update method. But at the time of writing my program, I don't know which SQL query I'm going to execute. At runtime of my application, I will ask to the user, enter SQL query. That user entered SQL query, I have to execute. But at the time of writing my JDBC program, I don't know which SQL query I'm going to execute in my application. That SQL query will be generated at runtime, not at the time of writing the program. It may be
होल
decided at
भनेको
runtime. I will ask the user, enter SQL query. User may enter SQL query.
सिद्धुरी
That SQL query I
सुसुङिनाल
Any type of SQL query we can provide, that doesn't matter. I want to execute my query. Without thinking about the
अरिनइनाल
type of SQL query, I want to execute my SQL.
खेरन
In that situation, we have to go for what method? No, execute method. Let the SQL query may be anything. Let the user to provide any type of SQL query to us in my JDBC program. That doesn't matter. Finally, I want to execute that query. I want to get some results.
सिल्सन भनेको
Without thinking about the query, if you want to execute the SQL query,
Dulgi?
there we have to go for what
गल्ती
method?
भन्नु मलाई
Execute
छिल्छु
method.
गए सुनेर
Maybe
Saptagi.
SQL queries
Chilson
are
one.
coming at a dynamic. At runtime of my
सिल्सुम
program, SQL queries
One
are
gabo?
coming. To execute that SQL queries at runtime.
भनेपछि अब मैले यिनीहरू
By
भनेको
getting
के हो
query
रे
at runtime, there we have to go for what method? No,
Handbook.
execute method. Then what is the purpose of? What is the capability of this execute
Bial.
method? What is the capability of the execute method?
विशेष दिनहरू
Execute
होइन
method can be used to execute both
त्यसमा
the
के
types
पर्यो
of
एउटा
SQL
जन्मदिन पर्यो
queries. Both the
सेङ्गेल
types of
भनिएको
SQL
त्यसलाई होइन
queries. Got my point or
अनि
not?
एउटा चाहिँ फेगिल
Alright, now let's see
यो
this one.
सयौँ
What's the
दिन
prototype
होइन
of this particular one?
यसलाई के भन्छ फेक छुक
Public
इल पनि भन्छ होइन
boolean
अनि त्यसपछि थोल
execute
पहिलो
of
जन्मदिन
string query.
जन्मदिन पहिलो
Any type
जन्मदिन
of
है
query
अनि
here we
त्यसपछि
can use.
सयौँ
Throws
जन्मदिन
SQL exception.
अनि छिप्दुरी
Public boolean
अनि
execute string query throws
अनि
SQL
trigger.
exception.
खेरन
carefully.
खिनेमिल
Boolean
अनि
p1
त्यसपछि
equal to sp dot
बगानको अबई नाल अनि
select
गुरुपतिमा
from
इम्पोर्टेन्ट छ
emp1.
सु सुङ
Observe
ए
carefully.
नाल
Another
टिचरको
example.
जन्मदिन
Boolean
होइन
p2 is
भन्नु त
equal
मिलेन
to sp dot
अरिनी
execute
नाल
of update SQL query.
अब बच्चा
Update
दिवस
emp1 that the e cell
होइन
is equal to
अब इम्पोर्टेन्ट भनेको वान गाप भयो होइन वान
e
गाप
cell less than 10,000.
अनि
Okay, understand
Chilson.
this point here. In execute in JDBC
Chilson.
applications, that execute method
यस्तो
can
गर्न
be
त
used to
हाइड्रो
execute both the
चल्छ
types of SQL query. Then continuation I'm telling there, observe carefully. If we execute select SQL query
सिल्लाङ
सुत्दिन्छ थाहा हुन्छ
with execute method,
सिनाउको
then execute method can return true value.
किन हाइरहेको मलाई सुतेकै
Okay, execute method can execute any type of SQL query. But what is the identification for us which SQL query that execute
only
method is
Geo.
executing? No. What is the identification for us that the execute method is executing which
ओल्ली
SQL
जियो
query?
ओल्ली
When
त
it executes select SQL query,
only
then
the-
what is the identification for us? It is executing select SQL query. When it executes
दुलासँग
non-select
दुलै
SQL query,
सित
then what is the
एकदमै
identification for
सुहाएको
us?
छ नि त हो
Whether it
मामाजी
is
के
executing
गर्ने
non-select
यस्तो
SQL query or not.
एपुन एपुन पाइहाल्यो अनि
Return type of the return value of the
होइन
execute method.
सुहाउने त नसुहाउँदो कुरै भएन नि
Means that it has been executed select SQL query. If execute method
अनि
is
कुराहरूको सबै रेकर्डिङ
the
भइरहेको छ
meaning of
त्यहाँ
execute method is executed.
भोलिगाली यो भिडियो जसले पढ्छ त्यसले सबै
That's
बुझ्छ
why I'm saying there.
यिनीहरूले
If
के
you
गरिरहेको थियो
select
भनेको
SQL query with execute method, then execute method will return
सिल्लाङ
true value.
छन्थौँ
Similarly,
हल्ले
if
हल्ले वेरी
we execute non-select SQL query with the execute method,
हल्ले
then execute method will return. Then execute method will return false value. There is an identification for us what SQL query that
सिलाङ
execute method is
सिलाङ
executing.
सिलाङ सिलाङ
Now I'm telling you clearly.
सिलाङ
Observe carefully.
सिलाङ
Now in
सिलाङ
practice,
सिलाङ
if we provide system dot out dot println
प्राइभेट
of
चाहिँ
p1,
मैले फोन भिजानी खेल्ने फोन
come on
भिजानी
guys, what value here we are able to get no? We
उल्ल्यायो
executed what SQL query? Select SQL query.
उल्ल्यायो
By the execution of select SQL query, what output here we are able to get in JDBC program? True value. Definitely, execute method has to return what value there? True value. Now the output is like what there? True value. Next one is in this example. In this example, if I provide like what there, system dot out dot println of like p2, if we provide there, and then what output here we are able to get there? Now tell me. Alright sir, what is that output here we are able to get? No, false value. Why we are getting false value here? We have executed what there? Non-select SQL query. Understand my point here now? Then one more note I am telling there. By that we are able to get much clarity. In the future also I am able to show this program as is the note related program. Right sir. In general, in a JDBC applications, if we know
खोइ त केटाटी
the SQL query type of
Okay.
SQL query. Type of SQL
और
query.
ये ना
Then we are able to use, if you know the type of
वो आप
SQL
ऐसा
query
लगा
at
ना
the time of writing program, then we are able to use either
भीतर बंद लो बाहर बंद लो
execute query method or execute update method.
खाना है ना
Execute query method or execute update method. Execute update method depending on the type of SQL query. Okay, but the point is like what there,
खाना खा लिया
type of SQL query. But the point is what there, if we don't know the type of SQL query, at the time of writing JDBC program, JDBC application,
हामीलाई छटपट भएको थियो अब त छटपट
तला आधार बगे हम
then we have to
तला आधार बगे हम
use then execute method. That means if we don't know
यार चकला आथे
the
ना
type of SQL query at the time of writing JDBC program,
नहीं
अहिले एक प्याकेट आयो
JDBC
भन्नु
application, then we have to use what there,
काजू
execute
बदन
method.
को
Why?
छोड़ा
Because execute method has the capability of
चॉकलेट दस्ती
executing
वो
both the
खेतना
SQL
ठीक
query.
है खेतना
Execute query method
खेतमा
is able to
मकैका
execute
भेट्छ
only select SQL query. Execute update method is able to execute only non-select SQL.
चोरमा
Here execute method is able to execute what there, both the types of SQL
काजू बदन
queries.
आथे लगत लगत
Right.
लुई
Now
तीन
this
चार
is
ले
what exactly the point I'm telling to you. The no type of point
काजू
I'm
बदन
telling
थे
you.
तीन चार
Example here we are given there. But observe carefully the flow, internal flow here. What is the point I'm telling to you?
तीन है
Observe carefully. First of all here I'm telling to you clearly.
तीन है वाला
Boolean p1 is equal to st dot execute of select star
एवढं
from
फेव मिठे जास्त
emp1.
ऑलरेडी
System output println of p1. Here output is like what there, true value here we are getting. What's going to be happen there now? Tell me now. Just try to follow red color lines.
क्या
Try to
सुन
follow
रहे
these
थे
red color lines. Now understand it clearly. First JVM will take the provided select SQL query. JVM will send the select SQL query to JDBC driver. JDBC driver will send the select SQL query to connection. Connection will carry the select SQL query to database.
हाकिम निको
Database
अकाउन्ट मा
engine will
पैसा
perform all
गएको
the
मेसेज
query
गर्ने सिस्टम छैन
tokenization,
छैन
parsing, optimization and execution. Executing that query, fetching the data from database server. That fetch data will be given to the
पैसा
connection.
ब्याङ्कमा आसी घन्टी
Connection will
भन्छ
carry that fetch data to JDBC driver. JDBC driver will send that fetch data to what their Java application.
त्यतिकै पैसा
That
हालिदिनु
Java
पर्छ नि
application, the total fetch data will be stored in the form of what there?
5000 छोडेर जानु हो
Now result
त्यही
set
पैसा
object is
चाहिँदैन
created.
हामीलाई पनि
But please remember this. Result set object is created. Even in the case of execute method with select SQL query, result set object is created, but execute method will not return this generated result set object reference.
त्यही पैसा
Execute method will not return the generated result set object reference. Here, execute method will return true value. Here, execute method will return what there? True value. Got it or not? So here we are able to get what value here? No, true value here we are getting. Right. Then after that,
मागेछु नि
after
मागे
completion of this, then what next one here?
त्यसमा मागे चाहिने बेला मलाई चाहिन्न यो दिन उठाइदिनु
Boolean b2 is equal to st dot execute of
ब्याट्रीमा
चोरी भयो भन्न पाइएन
emp1 set ecell is equal to
चौकी सामानै भेटेन हो
ecell plus 500 where
मिठै
ecell
चोर्नको भेटिएन अरे
10,000. This is a query here we have provided here. So try to follow
त्यही त
these blue color lines. What happened there? When JVM executes this particular instruction, JVM will take the provided non-select SQL query. JVM will send that non-select SQL query to JDBC driver. JDBC driver will send that non-select SQL query to the connection. Now connection will carry that non-select SQL query to database engine. Now database engine will execute the non-select SQL query, identify the number of records which are affected, that is row count value, send that row count value back to the connection. Connection will carry that row count value to JDBC driver. JDBC driver
मैले साँझ चाहिँ नि त्यो बिस्तारा राखेर जानको त्यही भएर फिर्ता गर्नु पर्यो
row count
भनेको
value is available at which location there? Java application. Even though row count value is available at Java application, but my execute method will return false value, not returning row count value.
यही छोडेर जान चाहिँ चाहिन्न भन्दा पनि त्यही भएर फिर्ता गर्नु पर्यो भनेको
In place of this execute method, if you use execute update method, what happened there? It will not return
उतै मागे
value. It
तँलाई
will return the generated row count value. But if it is execute method, what it is returning now? In place of returning integer value, directly it is returning what value here? False value, boolean value. That is the functionality of what there? Execute update method, execute method and execute query method. In the case of execute
ल अब
query
अर्को
method,
प्रश्न गर्छु है म
in the case of
तपाईँलाई
execute query method, result set offset is generated.
खेरहन्सिक
Result
मुन
set
वा
offset difference is written. But in the case of execute
Viva
method,
is
to select
suspect.
SQL query, result set offset is created even though execute method will
Viva
return
is the
true value,
suspect.
boolean value.
त्यही हो ल
In the case of
खेरहन्सिक
execute update method, integer value is generated,
खेरहन्सिक
integer value is written by execute update
विवाह
method.
स्थल के
In the case of
विवाह समारोह
method, even though
हैन
integer value is created, but
छङ
execute
छप्चङ
method will not return that integer value.
छङ
Execute method will
छप्जङ
return the generated, that means
निवेदन के
boolean
पत्र
value,
आएको
false value is able to return
निमन्त्रणा
from the
था
execute
निमन्त्रणा
method.
छङ
So this
छङ
is that overall
छावै
scenario
खेर
is
नाम
to
निधारे
understand.
एमबिए गर्दैछ
Right, sir. Now I want to simplify this part here. Now try to understand it. No,
अनि
the
छुक
document.
उइ
I
गुम
want to write the point here. Now try to observe carefully.
छुक उइ गुम
Right, sir.
त्यसमा बिमा
Right,
दिने
sir. I
भेटी
want to write the information here. Try to
हामीले
observe.
त उद्या जस्तो होइन छुक उइ गुम
In JDBC application,
छुक उइ गुम
if we
अनि
execute,
सिलाङ
दुला
select SQL query
Simbu.
with
दुलाई
execute
सूर्य
method,
पण्डित
then JVM will send select SQL query
सन्थङ
database engine.
के छ होल्ले होल्ले हो कि के
Where database engine
होल्ले सन्थङ होल्ले
fetch the data from database
सन्थङ होल्ले भनेको के हो
and
पुरानो
sends
विवाह
that
पुरानो
data
पुरानो
to
शैलीको विवाह
Java
हागेक
application
भनेको
in the form of
पाहुना
results
हागेक खोगेक
पाहुना
but
सुन्ने
execute method. Somewhat direct information
Simsal.
are written there. Not each and every point here.
पाउने
Not
भयो
equal
होइन
to 7 or 6 number of steps now. Direct information are given there, but execute
Sajin.
method
फोटो
will return
साह्रै एङ्गल आधा
फोटो खिच्नु
that is completed.
सही
Observe carefully in JDBC
फिरो
application.
एन
Execute,
नुल आधा
select SQL query with execute method.
फेरि
Then JVM will
के
send
पाउने हो
select
Party,
SQL query to
party.
database engine. Where database engine will
स्वागत
fetch the
गर्नु
data from
भनेर
database table
स्वागत
and
गर्नु
sends the data to Java application in the form of
फेरि
result
पनि
set.
थोरिका
But execute method will return what value? True value.
फेरि
Same
गुल
pair I want to write in the form of like what
थोरिदा
a non-select SQL query.
त्यतिखेर के लगाउँछन्
Now
यिनीहरूले
tell me what I have to write there. In JDBC application,
Handbook,
if we
eh?
execute, come on guys, now tell me non-select SQL query with execute method, then JVM will send non-select SQL query
मलाई
to
अर्को के
database engine. Where database engine instead of fetching the data will perform manipulations on the data,
सिलाङ
will perform
Simbu.
manipulations on the data, manipulations on the data,
सन्थङ होल्ले
manipulations on the data,
सूर्य
okay, manipulations on the data, comma,
सूर्य भनेको विवाह
identify
दिने व्यक्ति विवाह दिने
row count
व्यक्ति
value,
पण्डित
identify the row count. Already we are aware about this row count value. That's why I'm writing directly the point here. Identify the row count value and sends that
छप्जाङ
row count value to
छङ छप्जाङ
Java
खेरहन्सिक
application in the
खेरहन्सिक
form of what value there? Come on, in the form of what there?
उइ
Integer value.
गुम
In the form of integer value. But execute method will return what value?
सिलाङ
Execute method will return what value? False
सिङ्गो
value. That's it guys. Now this is the total awareness on like what there? Execute query, execute
Hage.
update, and finally what there?
खोगेक
Execute method. Got it or not? Right. Then after that, after
Singing.
completion of this,
छिन्छ
right here I given that information about
Sajin.
like what there execute method where we are going to use that execute method. But later we'll see the programming part each and every part. After completion of this, the last
Sajin,
step is
Sajin.
available. What is that last step? No,
Sajin.
sixth step. That is what there close the resources. Close the resources. What exactly the meaning of closing the resources? No. Only one point.
फिरो
In
एन
JDBC application,
फिरो एन आधा फिरो एन आधा
it is convention to close the resources like order to avoid security problem and to utilize memory in an effective way. That's it, guys. In an effective way. In JDBC applications, it is a convention to close the resources like JDBC connections, statements, and so on. At the end of the JDBC application,
Yeah,
we have to
program,
avoid
yeah.
security problems
की
and
मतलब
we have
किसी बात
to
दिन काम
utilize
बंदी
memory in an
त्यस्तो काम
effective way. Answer my point here. Just when we open the resources, we have to close them. That is the minimum
Just काम
responsibility for us.
तो फुर्सत में बस
So
है
that
नहीं
so that
तो
here what I am telling is,
हाँ तो
we
दे
have to go for
हाँ
rs dot close. What is this rs sir? Result set. The next one is what there sp dot close. What is this sp statement? Then con dot close. What is this con actually? What is this con actually? Connection. But understand one small note here.
35
What is the note I am telling to you? Observe carefully. In JDBC applications, closing connection
35
is sufficient.
36 36
Why? Because
36 36
if we close the connection, then automatically all statements and result sets
37 37
are going to be
37.
closed. Result sets will be closed.
37
Answer my point here. JDBC applications,
38
closing connection is sufficient.
38
Why? Because if we close the connection, then automatically all statements and result sets will be closed.
38
Observe carefully. What's the point I'm telling you now? Not required to close everything. Just con dot close is sufficient. Why? Because when we close the connection, automatically statement will be closed. Along with statement, automatically result set is going to be closed. So in JDBC application, only what is required here now? Just only con dot close. Automatically statement will be closed. Automatically result set will be closed. But due to the lack of this awareness only, most of the people are trying to close all the resources. Got or not? Result
ये
set
क्या
are
ट्रे
closed.
डेरी मिल्क आशा आदर
Then
नाइट
what
लेखानी
next one there? Con dot close. And even if we miss the order now, we are able to get exception. For example, if we close the con dot close first, next one is rs dot close. If you write now, exception will come. Why? Because already connection is closed in the sense result set is already been closed.
नाइन लाइन मैले दुईटा पठाइदिएछु खाए है
No, not required to close it. So that's why order is important, but better to close only
Ah.
connection. But one more point I'm telling to you, observe carefully.
नानी खाए है
Note. I think you might be guessed this point here. What's the point I'm telling here? If we use try with resources, then tell me, what's your topic? If we use try with resources,
यार आने भी कर बता रहा
I'm giving this part. If we use try with resources, then it is not required
नाइले क्रिकेट मैक्सिन टुल मैक्सिन
to close any resource explicitly. Automatically,
किट चाहिए भने त
all the resources which are declared
किट
in now
अहिले ल्याउनुहुन्छ क्या टुल बाबुले
try with the resources part. Try with resources. Even that connection is also be not required to
केही न
close.
केही पनि
Whatever the resources we declared along with the try with the resources, no, automatically all the resources are going to be closed. Don't worry. This concept I will explain there again. Programmatically I will show that point exactly. Don't think much about it.
के को
But all
तरकारी
the
हो
things. In the first program I will close all of them. Next program only I will use con dot close. Next program I
गोरगावली
will use for there try with resources. Not required to close
अझै
any of the
नेताजी
resources.
कहाँ आयो
Automatically JV will close all the required
Sorry.
resources. Sir, got it or not?
कहाँ खाएर
Totally
बिहान
JDBC steps we completed, sir. JDBC steps we completed. Next one is we have to go for what there? ABP01. Example we have to go there. How to create a table in the database through JDBC program. That example I am going to show. First program there where I am going to use. Initially I am going to use Oracle database with the Typhoon driver. At least one example I have to see and Typhoon driver. Same example I will do with the MySQL database with the Typhoon driver. After that I will not touch Typhoon driver. As per the requirement I will go for it. Then directly I will go for what there? Typhoon driver. Understand clear? If you are getting any problem with Oracle database, don't feel anything bad about it now. Forget about it. Then directly
घाममा
practice
कहाँ
with
पढाइ
what
हुन्छ
their MySQL
दिमाग
database.
बाहिर जान्छ करून नाही तब तक फॉर्मॅट
but
उचल
for the
नंबर
sake
यार
of our
इंसान
practice we can do that. Later on we will check why it is not working with Oracle
यार दिन
database.
करो ना यार दिन
Definitely
इस्लाम
we'll
फिर
speak about
मान
Oracle database also, but immediate programming point of view, two
ये वाला
databases
बढ़ा से
are given
आनंद
there.
असला
Let
देखी
us work with both the databases. Every application, up to 2 to 3 applications I will show with both the
क्या
databases.
बाकी
After that, which database is comfortable for you, we can use that respective database directly. Is that clear or not? Right, sir. That's all for today. Then tomorrow we will start directly application development. But my advice to all of you is what there. Before come for tomorrow's class, whatever the steps I have given in JDBC program, please follow with the steps. Try to read that all the steps clearly. Moreover, I need to copy this diagram. Right, sir. Now this is the total JDBC architecture, the program I given there. This
के भन्छ रे